Are we live? Yeah, right? Everyone's live? Great. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are going to start on page 332. Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh. Avarachaman. Nishochavecha. El Ritzonecha. Yarutz Avecha. Imoya. Yishachave. El Mohadorah, Yerava, Yedidutecha, Menofetzu, Bechotam, Adonai, Zipaolam, Nafshi cholat avatecha Ana elna rifana la Beharot la no anzivacha Nasti tazeh Petit Rabbe, Lechai Talah, Simchat Olam, Yadadai Dai Dai Dai, Yadadai Dai Dai Dai, Yadadai Dai 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 Dai, Yadadai Dai Dai, Yadadai Dai Dai Dai, Yadadai Dai Dai Dai, Yadadai Dai 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 Dai, Yadadai Dai Dai. Yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai 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 dai, yada dai dai dai. We're on verse 3. Vatikemu narachamecha Sana al ben ahuvecha Izekama nitzof nisafti Lirot v'tiferet uzecha Ana Eli Nandat libi Bechusana Ve'anati talam Higalena Ufros Habibi alai Etzu Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Ooh. Realized I just forgot to put my tallit on, so I'm going to go do that real quick. Welcome to Temple Sinai, each and every one of you. Those of you who have been here many, many times before, and those of you for whom this might be the first time or perhaps the first in a while. My name is Rabbi Sarah Zober. I am half of the rabbinic team here at Temple Sinai. My husband, Rabbi Benjamin Zober, just to give everybody the update, he went into surgery on Wednesday, very, very kind of quickly, but the surgeon came out of the OR clapping his hands. So we're all really happy about that. Rabbi Ben is doing well, is at home, is actually resting. So if you want to send some good vibes his way, we will be praying for him when we get to our Misha Berach, but it looks like things are good and he is well on his way to recovery. Thanks for all of the wonderful well wishes that all of you have sent. I know that he felt all of that energy. This evening, if you are here in person, this is our masked service. So if you don't yet have a mask, we have a bunch out on the table. You are welcome to go grab one. We really appreciate there are a lot of folks who this is kind of their one opportunity to come to a masked service. And so we do want to make sure that that is a possibility for them. If you are joining us online, welcome. Feel free to put any of your requests or names of people that you want to remember as we go through the service into the chat. We also have our virtual Siddur, which can be downloaded on sinaireno.org/Siddur, I believe, or /live. It's /live. You can get everything that you need on that one. No, if you're at home, you get out of having to wear masks. So you guys can be in your PJs. And I hope that you're like enjoying a nice glass of wine or doing, right? So anyways, welcome. Thank you for being here in our virtual space as well. At the end of services, we do have a virtual oneg. Again, go to sinaireno.org/live to get all the information about joining our virtual group on that Yisma Zoom. All right, we turn to page 9. I'm just going to jump you guys all over. And we read together at the bottom of the page. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope. For Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories, glowing even in darkness. For Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love, we offer thanks and blessing, O God. It's my pleasure to invite up Vita and Daryl Dworkin to light our Shabbat candles this evening. If you'd like to follow along, you can follow along on page 2.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and into our lives.
Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need. all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Maybe. Watch me set the mask.
There you go.
Don't do that.
Wait. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'havli ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
It's gonna make it.
It'll make it.
There we go.
There we go. Vita, don't forget that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you both. We turn together to page 11. And we will sing Dodi Lee. Dodi Lee, Vani lo haroeh, Ashoshanim, Dodi Lee, Mizotola, Min Hamidbar, Mizotola, Min Hamidbar. Dodi Lee, Vani lo haroeh, Vashoshanim, Dodi Lee, Nekuteret Moru Levana, Dodi Lee. Dodi Lee, Vani lo haroeh, Vashoshanim, Dodi Lee. We are going to turn to page 20 for L'Chadodi. As is our custom, we are going to, actually, I'm going to switch it up on you. We're going to do verses 1, 2, 4, 5, and 9. We're going to add in extra verse 4. Someone say ew.
I don't know those words.
It's okay. That's where you practice them. And we are going to do verses 1, 2, 4, 5, and 9. On the 9th and final verse, if you are able, please rise in body or in spirit. We will turn to face our exterior doors. If you're at home, you can face whatever exterior door to the room you're in. And we're going to bow and say, Boi Kala, come, O bride, as we invite the Sabbath bride into our midst this evening. Okay. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'divorecha tishmianu, El hameyuchad Adonai echad, U'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litahila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor havaracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Hitna ari me'afakumi livshi bigdei tifatecha mi'al yad ben yishai behalach mikol ba'el nafshi ge'ala lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Hitorari kiva orech Umi uri Shira beri k'vod Adonai Alayich nigla Lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha u'b'tzona Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Lech kadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We turn to the next page, page 22, for Mizmor Shir. Mizmor Shir leyom haShabbat tov lehodot laAdonai uzamer lashimcha elyon uzamer lashimcha elyon Mizmor Shir leyom haShabbat tov lehodot laAdonai uzamer lashimcha elyon uzamer lashimcha elyon להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות עלי אסון ועלי נבל עלי היגיון בכינור מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון וזמר לשמך עליון כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידך רנן מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני לעולם כמחשבותיך מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון וזמר לשמך עליון וזמר לשמך עליון וזמר לשמך עליון. Now that we are all nice and warmed up, I hope, we are going to turn to the Chatzi Kaddish, which can be found on page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה namiran be'alma ve'yimeru amen. We all rise in body or in spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. We turn to page 31, and we read at the bottom of the page, "This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim." Ahavat Olam can be found on the next page. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah umitzvot, chokim umishpatim, otanu limadata, al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu, ukamenu nasiach b'chukacha, v'nismach b'divrei toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, נגע יומם ולילה. מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. The Shema can be found on the next page. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Abad. You may be seated. The rest of the Shema can be found on page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lebavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha Dehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtacha b'veitacha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitacha uvisharecha l'man tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai mitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem emet. We turn to page 39 at the bottom and we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one in peace. Our song for freedom, Mi Chamocha, can be found on page 40. ונאמר כי תרא אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Yisrael. We turn to page 43 and read together at the bottom. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Yismachu can be found on the next page. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Mekadeshei, mekadeshei shavi, kulam yisbehu ve'yitzangu mitubecha, yismechu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Ve'korei oneg, ve'korei oneg, yismechu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto, chemdat yamim oto karata, zecher l'maseh v'reishi. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. Yismachu v'malchutcha, shomerei Shabbat. We turn to page 46 and we rise in body or in spirit for our standing prayer for our Amidah. This is going to be our last evening Shabbat Amidah of the year 5,700. Yes, 5784. Yes, 5,784. So make it a good one. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatacha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imachot, U'mevii Geula Livnei Bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid hatah, Mechaker chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim berofei cholim. Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar. Kamocha b'gevurot, umidon melach, melet mimit umachayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'emanata l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahlelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. We continue silently to page 62. Please be seated when you are finished or when you feel ready. Page 62. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi v'hegyon libig lefanecha Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, begoali. All right. It is time for our Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our service for the reading of the Torah. It is my pleasure to invite up Barton Barrow to open our ark. And I've got Elisheva, and I cannot read the last name. Okay, come on up. To carry our Torah, we all rise and turn to page 245. One second. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, and observe faithfully the words of this Torah. And let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. Page 246. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Udevar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, Unerom Mamash Shemo Yachdav, Lecha Adonai Hagedula, V'Hagevura, V'Hatiferet, V'Hanetzach, V'Hahod, Ki Cho B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz, Ki Cho B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz, V'Cha Adonai HaMamlacha, V'Yamid Na'aseh Lechol Erosh, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omed, Al HaTorah ve'Ha'avodah ve'Gemilut Chasadim, Al HaTorah ve'Ha'avodah ve'Gemilut Chasadim. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hashama, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hashama, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. You may be seated. Thank you, Rosie. So we are at, as you can tell by looking at this Torah, we are at the very, very end of our book of Deuteronomy, our book of Devarim. We will be reading from Deuteronomy chapter 29. You can follow along and test my knowledge of cantillation in your green booklets. It has both the English and the Hebrew for you. It is my pleasure to invite up John Louis and Neva Donovan for tonight's Aliyah. Ya'amdu Yon ben Avraham v'Sarav and Neva Yehudit ben Avraham v'Sarah la'Aliyah. Let me show you where we are, okay? I'm going to need one of you to hold this over. It doesn't stay open when it's at this point. Okay, if you can hold that one, I will hold this one. We're starting right there. Okay.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambarak.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. Ve'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem rashechem shiftechem ziknechem v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael tapchem neshechem v'gecha asher b'kerev machanecha mechotei beitzacha Ahad shoev memacha leovercha bivrit Adonai Elohecha uvalato asher Adonai Elohecha koret imacha hayom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan toanu Torah temet v'chaye olam nata bechotenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Don't go too far. I have a special soft spot for John and Neva because John was the president who brought Rabbi Benjamin and I to this congregation. So it's always nice to share a bima with you again, John. Misha berach avatenu v'imatenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless both of you since you have come up to the Torah for the honor of God and Torah. May you both merit from the Holy One of blessing, protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, and from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in your every endeavor, together with all Israel, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Please don't trip. You're supposed to have rescue and protection after that.
Yeah, I didn't know myself.
Good. It worked. Good. At this time, with the Sefer Torah in our midst, we think of those in our community who are in need of healing. We are especially thinking of Ruth Irene Ackroyd, Kevin Ashton, Kathy Bartlett, Tracy Bartlett, Batya Tali, Harav Binyamin Ben Yaakov Vibracha, Evelyn Brassard, Gary Cecil, Laura Cohen, Oritzur Cohen, Megan Carney Cranmer, Nancy Dawes, Stephen Gold, Margie Garant, Marlene Harris, Pam Hendricks, Karen Hertzberg, Letitia Kruger, Griffin Lewis Fetchko, Molly Rose Lewis, John Lutzker, Jason Matthews, Harav Miriam Yael Chaya Batsara, Vivian Morgan, Tim Ober, Claire Petersky, Carol Pevney, Jackson Morgan Ramirez, Michelle Ramirez, the entire Ramirez Morgan family, Judy Ramos, Sarah Bat Chava, Harav Sarah Bat Yisrael Vishoshana, Chaya Schwartz, Shana Bracha Bat Esther Malka, Chris Stanton, Petra Suber, Teresa Sussman, David Wagoner, Vanessa Wagoner, Steve Weidman, Bobby Wells, and Usher Zalech. Of course, we're also thinking of the folks in Israel for peace, healing, and remembrance for all the people affected by this war, for everyone affected by the coronavirus and long COVID, and for Jewish and other communities across the world who are currently suffering. If there are other names that you would like to mention at this time, please do so as my hand sweeps over you. If you are online, please put your names in the chat.
Morales. Carla Bowman.
Jerry Sayes and Michael Martin.
For all the names that folks have put in the chat, and for those whose names remain in our hearts, we sing our song for healing, which can be found in the middle of page 253. Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. At this time, it is my pleasure to ask Ellis to come up and help me lift and dress the Torah. We all rise and turn to page 252. Okay, this is piece number 1, 2, 3. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. Al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Let me just get it for a bit. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. Al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. We turn together to page 257, and we read responsively. When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace.
Christ teaching his love and kindness. What is faithful to you, do not do to any person.
That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization.
Honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties. But the study of Torah is equal to them all, because it leads to them all.
Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. Etz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcha meushar deracha darchei noam v'chon tivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chad Kedem. Thank you, Alice. You may be seated. Next week is Rosh Hashanah, as hard as it is to believe. Every year when I hear the first words of this parsha, Atem nitzavim hayom kolchem, my high holiday prep mode goes right into high year high holiday mode. And that's deliberate on the part of the rabbis. You see, these last two parshiot before the high holiday season have opposing themes that serve as reminders to us heading into the season of the days of awe, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. First, Parshat Nitzavim begins with Moses calling together every Israelite man, woman, child, and even the strangers in our midst. And Moses calls them together on the day of his death for one last speech. The great Moshe Rabbeinu reminds us that the covenant is between God and each and every one of us. And what that means is even when Moses is gone, we cannot fall apart like we did in the desert. It's on each and every one of us to keep that covenant alive, not just on our leaders. One of our midrashim, the Mechilta de Rebbe Ishmael, points out that Moses refers to God as Adonai Elohecha and uses the masculine singular, not because Moses was only talking to Joshua, the next leader, and not because Moses was only talking to the guys, but because every single Israelite who stood there was united in God being their own personal God. At that moment, the Midrash tells us, the Israelites were so united that it was as if they were a single person, and each person stood security for the person next to them. This mindset from Nitzavim is the mindset that we're meant to take with us into the week ahead, and especially into Rosh Hashanah. When we gather together next week, we will have the opportunity to see folks that we have not seen since last year. We will see lots of new faces that we don't know. We will see people with whom we've disagreed with and feuded, been hurt by, or harmed ourselves. And yet on Rosh Hashanah, every single one of us will stand together as one community to thank God for another year and another chance to get it right. And then on Yom Kippur, we are all judged together as well. Now, the verb nitzavim in this portion is not our usual word for standing. That's the word omeid, like amidah, the thing that we do every single day, multiple times a day. Natsav means to take a stand, like a guard or an activist. Natsav is simultaneously defensive and also offensive and also protective. It's active. It's like standing and posting a watch. It's not a passive standing around. The Torah uses natsav in this instance because when we come to shul during the days of awe, we come to stake our place within the ranks of the Jewish people, next to all of those wonderfully imperfect other people we know here. And we stand together as one, despite any of our differences. This week's portion is a double one, though. So we quickly pivot to Parshat Vayelech. While Nitzavim was all about standing together in front of the greatness of God's presence, Vayelech reminds us that we do not always get to feel that presence so clearly or so imminently. There are times when God's face is hidden from us, what we call hester panim, and we find nothing but silence and distance when we look for God. I remember the first Rosh Hashanah after my divorce. I was in seminary. I was stressed out. I was single parenting 3 very small children. I was exhausted, lonely, and driving all the way to Piqua, Ohio. Yeah, that's an actual, no, it's a lovely place. I went to my pulpit to lead Rosh Hashanah services. Rosh Hashanah services being some of my favorite liturgy of the year. And as I looked out at the congregation and their eyes were closed and they were swaying and singing, I felt not much. I just couldn't find God in the liturgy that day. And as a seminarian, it shook me hard. That emptiness followed me through the next morning and even through Tashlich at a beautiful little creek. I had one more thing to do before the whole day could just be over with. I had a visit to a very ill congregant in one of the nursing homes locally. And I brought a shofar with me to give her a little taste of Rosh Hashanah. When I went to go into her room, I found out from the charge nurse that in the month between my last visit to the pulpit and this visit, this congregant had lost the last of her hearing, as well as the last of her sight. At previous visits, she'd recognized me by touching my face and the sound of my voice, but I was at a loss this time as to what to even do. How do I say hello or Shana Tova? I contemplated just turning around and leaving as a capstone to my terrible Rosh Hashanah, but I decided I was going to try and make a connection with her because she deserved that much. So I walked in and spoke to her, even though she couldn't hear me. I took her hand and I put it on my cheek, wincing slightly as she smudged her fingers across the lens of my glasses. "Rabbi," she said brightly. Her voice was way too loud, but she was happy. "It's Rosh Hashanah, isn't it?" she said. I nodded with her hand on my face, and I started to just talk to her. Not hearing me, she started talking too. "I'm so sorry I can't hear the shofar this year, but I've been imagining that sound all week." I pulled the little shofar out of my bag and I placed it on her lap. She took her hands off my face and she grabbed the shofar, turning it over in her hands. "Can you play it for me?" she asked. "I wonder if I'll be able to feel it." So I took the shofar from her, I put it to my lips, and I moved her hands to hold the opposite end of the bell of the shofar. I blew a tekiah that sounded pathetically like a duck, and she laughed. "I can feel the tekiah," she said. So for a while, I kept blowing on the shofar while the nurses looked curiously in, and she smiled and giggled, feeling the vibrations through her fingers. It sounded absolutely ridiculous. I have many talents, and shofar is not one of them. But she was delighted, and the nurses were delighted that she was so engaged. At that moment, I realized that I too was finding God for the very first time that day. Just the joy of the shofar, that horrible sound, stripped of its grand liturgy, stripped of being able to hold a conversation with the woman sitting in front of me. Just that weird little quack allowed us to simply connect over the delight and feeling of sound's vibration. God, who I realized at that point had been hidden from me for weeks, came back in the sweetest and most playful of moments. And this is the message of Parshat Vayelech. In the words of the Dat Zakinim, the Torah knew that the world it described with this grand and immanent God showing God's self to us, that world was vastly different from the world that the rest of us live in. God in this world is often veiled, but that does not mean that God is absent. At times, it is that feeling of distance from God that is our clearest signal that we need to reconnect. After all, how can we feel so distant and pained from something that doesn't exist? Nitzavim reminds us that we will stand before God with all the Jewish people next week. And Vayelech cautions us that sometimes it's hard to find God. In the Talmud, Rav Bardella bar Tavyumeh said in the name of Rav, anyone who has never had God's face hidden from them is not truly a member of the Jewish people. This disconnect from God is a normal part of life. And this is why Moses talks about it to the Israelite people right before his death. It is often in stressful times, in busy times, and times of loss that we find it hardest to connect with the divine. And this year, around the holidays to come, it will be all three. Stressful, busy as usual, but it's also going to be a time of loss this year. So know that no matter where you are in the weeks to come, whether you know that you are standing before God on Rosh Hashanah fully cognizant of God's presence, or whether you find yourselves a bit distanced from everything that once felt familiar. Regardless of where you are, we will all be here together. We'll be standing shoulder to shoulder, friend and stranger alike. And starting next week, we will head into a brand new year with all of its possibilities as one unified community. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat Shalom. It is my pleasure to invite up Barbara and Karen Weinberg to open our Ark doors for the Aleinu. Please turn to page 282. We all rise. Yes, they look beautiful. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotze bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 284. שהונות השמיים ויוסר הארץ ומשה ביקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. Page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Lamelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad. Sorry. You may be seated. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools, this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. At this time, we are thinking of the recent deaths of Yolanda Jimenez and Patricia Duffier. We are in the first year of mourning for Daniel B. Stage, Sue Burkhammer, Eric Rosenberg, Jeffrey Four, Kevin Knox, Joanne Reimer, Jim Alexander, Rebecca Weidman Hoover, Kurt Engelhart, Debbie Herman, Jerry Zober, Laura Lazarus, Ron Darst, Robert Stearns, Sally Ann Castle-Rain, and Irene Fenton. This week, we are also commemorating the art sites of Leroy Hirsch, Charles Krachenbull, Edward B. Solomon, Matthew Wanner, Dick, beloved of Rivka, Pearl Goldberg, Velva Roberts, Betty Maza, Rabbi Alfred Gottschalk, PhD, Marjorie Slotkin, Ignaz Grunwald, David Harrison, and Samuel Eli Molad. If there are other names that you'd like to add, please do so if you are online in the chat. And if you are here in person, please do so and my hand sweeps over you.
Maddie Mayer.
Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. We turn to page 294, and if it is your custom, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute, b'chayachon uvyomechon, uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shemei Dekudesha Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'am yiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei Shlama Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'emru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all who mourn. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Now, Sue, I know you are our greeter. Are you going to do our announcements as well? All right, come on up and do that. It is my pleasure to invite up one of our board members, Sue Capistrant, to offer a few announcements. This one's got a bigger font if you want it. Yeah, Mike is very, very kind to us and gives us big font on the.
One question,
Yes, ma'am.
is Rabbi Van doing that tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be doing that.
Oh, okay. So you can hear me, I have to take this off, just for a moment. Okay, tomorrow morning there is a Torah study at 10, and at 7:30, Rabbi Sarah will be doing the northern exposure that Rabbi Ben was going to do. Then on Wednesday, October 2nd, at 7:30, it's the evening service for Rosh Hashanah. And Thursday morning, October 3rd, is a 10 o'clock morning service for Rosh Hashanah. And then on Friday, October 11th, is the evening service for Yom Kippur at 7:30. And I think on Sunday, October 6th, is the service at the Hebrew Cemetery at 2 o'clock. And Saturday, October 12th, is the morning service for Yom Kippur. And where to go? On Saturday, October 12th, is the morning service for Yom Kippur. And 6:30 is Break the Fast. And you can sign up for breaking the fast food for that day. And then we kind of get back on track for the usual things that occur. Tuesday, October 15th is the Crafter Smooths at 7, and then things go back to normal. Okay?
Thank you, Sue. For a full recap of all of our high holiday offerings, of which there are many, starting tomorrow, you can go to sinireno.org, and everything. Mike has done a remarkable job of getting every single one of our events, of which there are many. I think we have 17 different services in the next Hebrew month. So come join us for any and all of them. We've got we've got Leil Slichot on Saturday. We've got Erev Rosh Hashanah morning, Tashlich. We've got second day Rosh Hashanah. We've got Shabbat Shuvah. We've got all cemetery services. We've got all of the Yom Kippur goodies, as well as Sukkot and Simchat Torah, as well as a memorial service for the October 7th victims. It's all in there. Please visit the website because it is way too much. Sue did a great job of just kind of running through them. But make sure to put them all on your calendar so that you can join us for any and all of them. Okay. And tomorrow's Leil Slichot service, we're going to be watching an episode of the TV show Northern Exposure. And then we are going to be singing some of the greatest hits album of the high holidays. So please come. It'll be good, kind of a little bit of interactive stuff, a little bit of traditional stuff. So come join us, because I would love to have somebody to discuss this episode of Northern Exposure with, because my husband and I have been talking about it for like months since we saw it. So, okay. Our closing song can be found on page 321. Jeff, I'm so glad you're here. This is one of Jeff's favorite tunes, so you're welcome. It's one of my favorites too, so that's why I always do it. Adon Olam Hashem Alach V'terem kol Yitzir Nivra nasa b'chefso kol, azay melech shemo nikra. V'acharei kiflot hakol, levado yimloch nara, v'hu haya v'hu hova, v'hu yeh b'tifara. Adon olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'et nasa b'chefso kol, azay melech shemo nikra. Ve'acharei kiflot hakol, levado yimloch nara, v'hu haya v'hu hova, v'hu yeh b'tifara. There we go. Ve'hu echad ve'en sheni, lehamshilo lahachbira, v'li reshit v'li tachlit, ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra. Ve'hu eli v'chai go'ali, v'tzochav li v'yetzara, ve'hu nisi umanos li, v'natzkosi b'yom ekra. Ve'hu echad ve'en sheni, lehamshilo lahachbira, v'li reshit v'li tachlit, ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra. Ve'hu eli v'chai go'ali, v'tzochav li v'yetzara, ve'hu nisi umanos li, v'natzkosi b'yom ekra. Bi'ado afkid ruchi, v'yeti shan ve'ayira, v'im ruchi geviati, Adonai li v'lo ira. Bi'ado afkid ruchi, v'yeti shan ve'ayira, v'im ruchi geviati, Adonai li v'lo ira. Adon olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'et nasa b'chefso kol, azay melech shemo nikra. Adon olam Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'et nasa b'chefso kol, azay melech shemo nikra. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us in the social hall. If you are here in person, if you are online, please join us by going to signareno.org/live and come hang out with us in the Yisma Zoom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And happy 5785.